Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Bhalava Giribhara Dhari Jaya Gopijana Bhalava Giribhara Dhari Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Shishimadhi Sevaim Vaisaisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Garantara Shimam Bhagavatam ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 55, the story of Pradumnya, text 33 and 34. Katantvanena sampraptam sarupyam saringa sarupya oh, saringa, okay, sarupyam saringadanavam sarupyam saringadanuna sarupyam saringadambana akritya vajavairgatya swarahaswalokanai katantvanena sampraptam sarupyam saringadanvana akritya vajavairgatya swarahasavalokanai katham tvanena sapramtam sarupyam saringadanvana akritya vajavairgatya swarahasavalokanai katantvanena sampraptam katantvanena sampraptam sarupyam saringadambana akritya vajavargatya Swaraha Sabalokanai Katantvanena Sampraptam Sarupyan Saringatam Vana Akritya Vajavairgatya Swaraha Savalokanai Katantvanena Sampraptam Sarupyan Saringatam Vana Akritya Vajavairgatya Swaraha Savalokanai Katham, how to, but anena, by him, sampraptam, obtain, sarupyam, the same appearance, saringadambanaha, as Krishna, the wielder of the saringa bow, akritya, in bodily form, abhajavai, limbs, gatya, gait, swara, tone of voice, hasa, smile, avalokanai, and glance. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. But how is it that this young man so much resembled my own Lord Krishna, the wielder of the Saringa of Saringa, in his bodily form and his limbs, in his gait and the tone of his voice, and in his smiling glance? Text number 34. Sa eva bababem nunam jame gardhe dritor baka amusmin pritir adika bamaspurati me buja. Yes, he must be the same child I bore in my womb, since I feel great affection for him, and my left arm is quivering. Oma Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Ramapada Swamin Idinamine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Idinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. In text number 33, we have the commentary of Srila Sanatana Goswami as follows. The word tu indicates astonishment. She, this meaning Rukmini speaking, she shows how he is exactly like Krishna. All of his limbs were similar height, bodily development, and beauty in the body. After Pradumya came down from the sky, he moved his feet slight so his gait could be seen. The tone of his voice was understood from his questions to each of the mothers about their identities when he came close. He was also holding the saringa bow in his hand, or the phrase simply indicates his great courage and thus his great strength. And in text number 34, Srila Sanatana Goswami comments, Va indicates question. So in this case, Va comes from the first part of the verse 34 that says, Sa eva va vavennunam. So the word by word, Sa he, eva indeed, and Va or else. So when she say yes, he must be the same child I bore in my womb. So in this case, Srila Sanatana Goswami say, Va indicates questioning. Nunan indicates certainly. Since Rukmini is mother of the universe, she have general affection for all her children, but now she felt additional, adhika, affection. Moreover, her arm was quivering. She speak this verse in her mind. Otherwise, he would have approached her, introduced himself, and bowed to her lotus feet. Or, though she spoke aloud, because he arrived so suddenly, she was unable to immediately do or say anything because of doubt. So, the circumstances we've been hearing this narration, story of Pradumnia, and we have heard throughout the past time how he was kidnapped. And actually, he was kidnapped for the purpose of murdering him by this demon, Sharanga. Sharanga was his name? Sambara. Saranga. No. Sambara. So when he was just few days after his birth, and now he returns as a 16-year-old body, and whatever stretch of time has elapsed between his disappearance, from the chambers of Rukmini and that moment. So this is the moment in which he returns to Dwarka along with his wife, Rati, in this beautiful, beautiful form that exactly resembles Krishna, which is quite significant because Krishna by this time, he has, he's in Dwarka, and, by the time of the Kurukshetra War, Lord Krishna was 125 years. But regardless, he always resembled this 16-year-old body like that. So Pradumya looked exactly like Krishna. Exactly. So everybody was in Dwarka because he arrived right into the quarters of the inner quarters of the the palaces of Krishna. And as everybody saw him, they were confused because they thought, oh, Lord Krishna. But then when they looked close, they could understand that no, it was not Krishna, but nevertheless, he looks exactly like Krishna. And they're trying to figure it out. Who is this beautiful boy that looks exactly like Krishna? Rukmini, just by her mother affection and by understanding these symptoms, auspicious symptoms in the body, she can understand. He is my son, the one that was taken away from her. So, so it's that moment of reunion, coming together again. And so we're gonna continue here in the narration. But one thing that is um, that are gonna take at least this discussion is in verse 33. The words that is used in terms of Pradumya having exactly the same features of the Lord is Sarupyam. Sarupyam is when you resemble exactly the form of the Lord. And in Krishna Lila, both in Goloka Vrindavan and his Dwarka Lila, we hear only few personalities who exactly resemble Krishna. One is, we hear Pradumya. Another one is we hear of Uddhava. But although the associates of the Lord in Goloka Vrindavan and in Dwarka are also described as exquisitely beautiful and with all these auspicious features and possessing all these wonderful opulences as associates of the Lord. There's only few that are described that really exactly resemble Lord Krishna. In the Vaikuntha planets, that's another case, because in the Vaikuntha planets, we know that the associates of the Lord, they resemble exactly the form of the Lord. It is explained that there is 5 types of liberation that you can obtain when you're in the material world, and through transcendental practices you can achieve perfection and obtain liberation. The word for liberation is mukti. So there is these 5 type of liberations. One of them is considered very undesirable. In other words, at times it is described by the great saintly personalities as equal to hell, hellish. Specifically, this great personality whose name was Prabhupada Saraswati. He described that impersonal liberations is equal to hell. And the reason is because you basically deny the relationship that you have with the personality of Godhead, which is the essence of the living entity. So in other words, it's also described as committing spiritual suicide. You try to eliminate the essence of your existence. And what actually sustains your existence, which is the loving relationship with the personality of Godhead. So a great devotee prefers hell rather than taking impersonal liberation. So that one is out. Then there is other four that devotees receive and aspire. One is called Sarupya Mukti. And Sarupya Mukti is that liberation that you receive the same form of the Lord. So we hear in the narrations of, say, during the story of Ajamil, when the Vishnu Dutas, which is the associate of the Lord, came, they exactly resemble the form of Lord Narayan. And we see in the depictions, and the paintings, how exactly, the effulgence, the forearms, the bluish color of the skin, the effulgence, the dress, the ornaments, everything is there. Another liberation is called Salokya Mukti, in which you live in the same spiritual planet of the Lord. We know that in the spiritual sky, the top planet is Goloka Vrindavan. And you can imagine, Prabhupada described that you can picture Goloka as the sun and all the other planets as the Vaikuntha planets. So the sun is the main planet in the whole, cosmic creation. So Goloka is at the center, and from the effulgence of Goloka, the whole thing, becomes illuminated. So there is innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and in each of those Vaikuntha planets is a presiding deity of Lord Narayana, expansions of Lord Krishna. So you can receive the liberations of entering and living in the same planet of one of those forms of Lord Narayana. Salokya Mukti. Then is Sharsti Mukti, that you receive the same opulence of the Lord. Now, we hear the descriptions of the Vaikuntha planets, and the type of opulence that is in the Vaikuntha planets is just inconceivable. We hear that when the four Kumars were approaching, the gates of Vaikuntha, and the descriptions of gardens and all kinds of beautiful descriptions, and how the palace are made of, and the inhabitants and the whole scenery is just of great opulence. So you receive the same opulence of the Lord. And the last one is Samipya Mukti, in which means that you become an associate of the Lord. You become, one of the companions of the Lord. So these liberations are for those who are devotees. But pure devotees in the material world, not in the material world, pure devotees, very, very perfected beings who have achieved the goal of life, which is prema, pure devotional service. It is explained that they have no desire for liberation. They reject any of these types of liberation. This is explained by Lord Kapiladev to Mother Devahuti when he was instructing Devahuti about pure devotional service. We know Lord Kapiladev is famous for explaining the Sankhya philosophy, the whole breakdown of all the elements in the cosmic manifestation, both materially and spiritually. And all that for the purpose of understanding the goal of life, which is pure devotional service. And then at the end, he is explaining to Queen Devahuti pure devotional service. And as explaining pure devotional service, he says this. Salokya Sharti Samipya Sarupya Katwan Apyuta. So these are the 5 types of liberation. Salokya Sharti Samipya Sarupya and Katwan is the impersonal liberation. Diyamanam na grinanti binamat sevanam jana. A pure devotee does not accept any kind of liberation. Salokya, Sarsti, Samipya, Sarupya, or Ekatwa. Even though they are offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, even the Supreme Personality of Godhead offering the devotees liberation is not in the heart of the devotee. They don't want liberation. Now that's very surprising and it's very puzzling in one sense. Why wouldn't you want to be liberated and go back and be with the Lord? Why? So from that perspective, it's very puzzling. It doesn't make sense. You know, in the material world, we're away from Krishna, and liberation means becoming free from birth and death, and going back home, back to Godhead. This is the motto of the Krishna consciousness movement. Back home, back to Godhead. Why they won't want to, you know, become free from this duratyaya, this prison of material existence. And the reason is because they already liberated. They're already with the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya gave us the same principle. He said, Nadanan najananda sundarim kavitat pajagat isha kamaje mama jammani jammanishware babatat ahaitu kitvayi. And he says, my Lord, Almighty Lord, I have no desire for wealth, for followers, for a beautiful spouse. I have no desire for any of the things. I don't have desire for any of those benedictions that I may receive from you. My only desire is birth after birth to be situated in pure devotion at the Lotus feet. So when he say birth after birth, is that they, implies I don't care about liberation. I just desire to be at your service, pure devotional service, birth after birth, and just give me that. So that gives us the feature of the nature of pure devotional service, that already the devotee is fully satisfied and is a constant companion of Krishna. Krishna is at all moment with the pure devotee, and the pure devotee, Krishna says that the pure devotee, I'm always in the heart of my pure devotee, and the pure devotee is always in my heart. So it's a perfect community, a perfect communion of transcendental love of the Lord and his pure devotee. So some thoughts about this sarupyam, feature that is available to anyone who pursues, this devotional path, and it can be achieved. But we're following in the path of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is giving us access to the highest position of pure love, the most intimate understanding of that relationship with the Lord. is not minimizing the transcendentalists, the devotees who actually aspire for that type of liberation and obtain that type of liberation. But what Lord Chaitanya is teaching us that you don't even need to aspire for liberation. Just aspire for pure love. Lord Chaitanya says that beyond those four principles of religion, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, that are the desirable goals of religion, you don't need to focus on that. You focus on the fifth Purushartha, which is prema. And that's what Lord Chaitanya is teaching us. Ahai tu ki tu ayi. No other motivation but pure devotional service. Not even liberation. And that's the path that we follow. And that's the path that gives us entrance to this most intimate relationship with the Lord. And that's the path that if we're fortunate to perfect it, we have entrance into Goloka Vrindavan, which is quite inconceivable. Because even the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, has a hard time to enter into Goloka Vrindavan. So just picture it like that. Just think like that. And there is me, an insignificant spark of, Krishna's potency that have the capacity to enter into that intimate arrangement by Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So that's that. Another one that I always liked was, Krishna's weapons. And the particular weapon that is described here is the sharanga, the bow. There's a nice history of, of the bow of, Lord Vishnu, Krishna. In fact, Krishna have 4 favorite weapons that he wielded, in different situations. One is the most celebrated chakra, disc. Another celebrated one is this bow, the Sharanga bow. And then he also is famous by his gada, who is called the Kaumadaki. And then he also has a sword that is called the Nandaka. Now, when it comes to the Sharanga bow, the history goes like this, in the narrations of the Mahabharata. And also, yes, there was this inquiry in the higher planetary systems between the supremacy of Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. And then, in order to resolve this, who is the greatest, there was going to be a show of strength between these two, controllers or personalities, Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. And the architect of the demigods constructed 2 equally powerful bows. One was the Sharanga, one was the Pinaka. The Sharanga was given to Lord Vishnu, the Pinaka was given to Lord Shiva. And in the show of strength between the 2 of them, Lord Vishnu came victorious. Lord Shiva, after happily being defeated, he gave the bow to the descendants of King Janaka. And Lord Vishnu equally gave this Shranga bow to a sage called Richika. We hear in the narrations of the Ramayana that this Pinika bow was kept in the family of King Janaka, and during the time of King Janaka, that was the famous bow that Sita Devi, as a child, lifted, but no one can lift that bow. It's a gigantic bow. It was being kept in the dynasty of King Janaka and worshipped as such. So we know the story. In Sita Devi's Sombara ceremony, uh, Lord Ramachandra picked up the bow and broke it. Then, after they got married, as they proceeding, back to Ayodhya, Parshuram came and holding this bow, this Shranga bow. So how Parshuram got this bow? Because Richika was his grandfather, was the father of Janadagni, which was the father of Parshuram. Yes. So Parshuram, Lord Parshuram, which is another avatar, he challenged Lord Ramachandra. See if you can, sort of use the bow of Lord Vishnu, the Sharanga. And Lord Ramachandra was able to show that he can hold it and use it. So, and Shor Parshuram, Lord Parshuram, that Lord Ramachandra was Lord Vishnu, the avatar. So Lord Ramachandra kept the bow, and is the bow that he used to kill Ravana, destroy Ravana. After Lord Ramachandra departed, then he took his bow back to Ayodhya Dham in the spiritual world. And eventually it says that he put the bow in the care of Varuna. And that bow was delivered to Lord Krishna. So it's the same bow that, is being used by Lord Vishnu all the time. So that's Krishna's weapons. And finally, I'm going to end the class early today because I'm just going to leave for questions. But I have to rearrange my schedule now. I have to cook the Raj Bhoga, so I'm going in the kitchen. Rukmini is recognizing, Pradumya as his son. One of the things that is described by Srila Sanatana Goswami is that Rukmini is the mother of the universe. And therefore, every single living entity is very dear to her. Which is quite beautiful in one sense, And understandable too, because Krishna says that he is the father of all living entities. So Krishna says, what is it? Aham bija padapita. He's the seed-given father of all living entities in this material world. And thus, Krishna's wives, Krishna's queens, Krishna's consorts are the mothers of the universe. And in the ultimate sense, because all these personalities such as Rukmini, Satyabhama, all of them, they're expansions from Srimati Radharani. As all the different forms of Krishna in Dwarka Lila, and all the avatars and the expansions of Krishna. Krishna is tu Bhagavan Swayam. So, Srimati Kishori Devi is the mother of all living entities. So we can certainly address Srimati Radharani as mother, or Rukmini Devi as mother. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada says, that's why Hare Krishna, we first approach Radha, Srimati Radharani, we first approach her because mothers are very inclined and kind towards the children. It's natural, the natural affection is there. So we approach her. Srila Prabhupada says like this, Srimati Radharani is so kind that regardless, when she sees someone that comes in front, approaching the deity's form, and she sees someone praying to Krishna, then she immediately thinks, oh, such a nice devotee. It's actually, and she feels that this nice devotee is a better devotee than me. So then, therefore, she wants this devotee to have all free range to actually connect with Krishna by her blessings. So, so Prabhupada say, therefore we chant Hare Krishna. Hare is addressing Srimati Radharani, the mother. So Prabhupada say, when you chant, you have this mood, oh mother, kindly engage me in the service of the Supreme Father, Krishna. So, is some thoughts about that. Any comments or questions?
Thank you for class. The question that comes to my mind is, if a person takes up this process of bhakti in this sampradaya, and they enter into the temple, this temple is situated energetically in Vaikuntha, right? Like the energy of Goloka is here. Is there any reason whatsoever for a person to go beyond these gates other than book distribution and Sankirtan and do anything beyond these gates? Is there any reason to go out into the material world, which is not here? Once you enter into here, is there any reason to go out there?
Yeah. The reason is because it's the desire of Lord Chaitanya. There are three principles that Lord Chaitanya gave us that are the focus of our service to Him. Is Nam Ruchi, which is absorbing and getting a taste for chanting the holy name. Vaishnava Seva, which is serving the devotees. And Jiva, Jiva Doya, which is mercy towards the conditioned souls. So these three principles, none of them can be neglected. They're the three principles of actually advancing Krishna consciousness on there. And the protection of Lord Chaitanya and what is going to allow us to receive Lord Chaitanya's gift, which is this entrance into this most intimate position in connection with Lord Krishna. So we are the movement of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, which is engaging the whole world, every town and village, in the chantings of the holy name. So we ought to be out and to connecting with people and to out reaching out and sharing. And by doing that, without compromising any of the other, the three of them, then we achieve. So yes, it's important. It won't work. I mean, you won't have the gift of Lord Chaitanya if you neglect any of the three. That's my understanding. I mean, to my level, it goes deeper. Any other question?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class. You said that a pure, not sure the pure devotee, but devotee doesn't look for liberation because it's already liberated. So why don't I feel liberated? What is the actual liberation? What is this? I honestly, I don't know. Why don't I feel that? Am I not so devotee or?
No, we're aspiring devotees. We have a way to go. Most of us, at least, A pure devotional service. Remember how our acharyas, Srila Rupa Goswami, breaks down the whole, steps that we're following in the process of coming to prema. So many of us are just in the initial stages. So we know there is 9 of them. Many of us, we are still dealing with the anartha nivritti stage, which is the cleansing of the heart. And we get there. Srila Rupa Goswami says, remain enthusiastic, don't give up the enthusiasm, that sort of impetus. Have faith in the process and be patient. These 3 things. And the other 3 is just make sure that you avoid the things that are unfavorable and do the favorable things and remain in the association of devotees. So we still, the reason we don't feel it is we're still dealing with getting rid of unwanted things that are sort of blocking that that purity. But Krishna gave us the process, Lord Chaitanya, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, we start to cleanse the mirror of the heart by Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan, right? The process of Sankirtan Yagya. And again, the process of Sankirtan Yagya, you have the 3 elements. I was just reading that recently. So, Nam, Vaishnava Seva, and preaching to others. So that's Sankirtan Yagya. And by that process, you become cleansed. And indeed, we may not feel liberated, but how relative is that? Because in fact, we're becoming liberated. Just look back and how many things you become free from that were really that, oh my God, I'm free from that, and who knows where I will be if I haven't come to Krishna consciousness and be liberated from that path that I was following, you know? So it is working. We are becoming gradually liberated. There's still work to do because we still have deeper rooted, anarthas that we have to become liberated from. But the process works, and the process will do. We just have to remain focused on following, and with faith and with patience and with enthusiasm. Sure.
Um, this kind of liberation of taking on a form identical to the Lord, it just struck me. The particular residents who have such forms similar to the Lord. I mean, as you pointed out, we hear about Pradumya and Uddhava. And it seems that it might be a little bit difficult in interpersonal dealings if you have to scrutinize everybody because of the similarity. It just struck me because even in this case, all the ladies in the chambers were scrutinized, had to go much closer to scrutinize.
Oh, there's some very unique features of the Lord, like the Kostuba jewel and the Srivatsa, tuft of hair, and there's particular things that you can, if you look closer, oh, it's Krishna. It doesn't describe that Pradunya or Uddhava have some, have the jewel. Although it's described here that Pradumya was holding the Sharanga bow, but then Srila Sanatana Goswami sort of clarified, or it was simply, saying that it looks as powerful as Krishna, the holder, taking, highlighting more the sort of power and chivalry that is depicted by the Lord holding. When we see that, the deities of Lord Ramachandra holding the bow, it's like it shows that he is a warrior. So, and so similarly that Srila Sanatana Goswami said. But, there's a specific things that Krishna and Lord Vishnu, that differentiates. But yes, you have to look close. In fact, the scribes, they all were bewildered. They saw, but then when they started to get closer, they can see some difference. Same when Uddhava came to Vrindavan, the gopis were like, initially Krishna has returned, but then when they look, oh no, it's not. So yeah, it's like that. Okay, thank you so much. Garantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.